Well, I mean, how did I get into crafting? I suppose when I was a child, I grew up in a family where, I grew up in a big family, we were just talking about that.
We were.
And we used to make all our own Christmas decorations, and my nan used to make our coats and crochet all our blankets and all that stuff. So it kind of, I grew up in a household where craft was a thing. My mum and dad were both art students at Harrow Art College, and so we had a kiln in the kitchen.
That's amazing.
And so I suppose I haven't really had a time in my life where there hasn't been something creative going on. So what, I can't give you a date, just as soon as I could hold a pencil. My life, but I suppose if you're talking about crafting as in the job that we do now, probably about 9 or 10 years ago, I happened to be watching TV one rainy half-term holiday and was flicking through the channels, and this craft channel came up that I'd never seen before, and before I knew it I bought a sewing machine because I thought I'll make my own curtains, and then I carried on watching and ended up buying a couple of card making kits to save myself some money. We all know that old chestnut, don't we?
Doesn't happen.
And here we are all these years later.
And you're on it.
Apparently so.
It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I suppose, I have always been creative. I used to be a nanny for tiny young little children, and I ended up doing like scrapbook pages with them, and absolutely loved it, so that I could document all the things that we were getting up to that I could then give to the parents.
That's
and
so cute.
So we would go and do little day trips, and I'd take all the pictures and we'd make little pages together. So that was kind of something I did like in my spare time, I suppose. And then fell into jewellery making. So when I had left college, I used to go and do Hobbycraft. Used to have a lot of in-store demonstrators, and I used to go and sit down and make the kits and show everyone what was on the on the shelves and available to buy, and teach them how to use it. And then have been on Creating Craft TV now for, I think, going into my 13th year.
Wow. Oh, that's easy. Anything that involves ink and stamps. So it doesn't have to be a card, it can be anything. In fact, what I like to do is to take a plain piece of card and turn it into something that it was never going to be. Also 3D, if it turns out to be a 3D product, then I'm even happier.
Great at your construction,
I love it, 3D construction. I think it's from spending a lot of time with clay, because I did a ceramic sculpture as a degree, so maybe it's that.
Yeah, back to your roots.
3D things, yeah.
For me, actually a very similar concept in terms of my jewellery making. I love chainmail, because you just take metal circles and create really intricate and amazing patterns out of them. I love taking something, a bit like with your, your paper, taking something and then turning it into something completely different. In terms of our craft buddy projects, a wreath is definitely my favourite thing to do. Hanging it on the door and getting a few nice pictures and everything else. I just love the creativity of it.
Right, so if you're using our construction dies, then realistically you need a cardstock that is between anything up from 250 GSM in weight. So that's a cardstock measurement. I would also say I find it easier using a non-coated cardstock. You'll just find that it stays together much more easily. And I always tend to use wet glue. That's my personal preference, because you usually find with tape, after a while it will start to pop open. So even if I end up using tape, I always put some glue on there as well. So I hope that's answered that question. I'm really old. I've done lots of things.
Where shall we start from?
When I first left school, believe it or not, I did a hairdressing apprenticeship.
Did you?
Yes, I worked in a hairdresser's from when I was 13 years old, because you were allowed to do that then, on a Friday and Saturday, and then I did City and Guilds, and I did lots of things. But about a couple of years in, I was like, right, okay, this isn't, you know, this is not what I want to do. For
Career
a long
change.
time I wanted to be, again, I wanted to be a fashion designer, and I used to make my own clothes. From charity shop finds, I used to adapt them. So
That's amazing.
nothing ever came of that, but that's, so I suppose again it's another creative thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've worked in factories. I worked in catering for quite a long time. I used to run a cocktail bar, which is where the cocktail making comes from.
And we appreciate those skills.
But then when I was in my mid-20s and I had children and stuff, I decided to go back to school. So I went back and studied for 5 years, and I became a primary school teacher, which is what I did up until I started working with Craft Buddy.
So where did I start? I've been in the craft industry since 2008. Before that, so I was a trained beautician for a while as well. I was also a nail technician. What else have I done? Teaching adults as well. So I went back to college and learned how to teach. What did they call it? Preparing to teach in the lifelong sector.
Wow.
So I was teaching adults. So yeah, I've got quite a few qualifications under my belt, but kind of never really, I suppose, teaching in one aspect with some of the things that we do now. I was a nanny for a little while as well. Loved, did health and social care at college. Wanted to go into like social services or working with younger kids and stuff as well.
This one's over to you.
Oh,
Definitely.
top tip when creating Forever Flower Mix, just have fun, take your time with it. And I think what I love about the Forever Flowers is that nothing's permanent. So it's not that kind of, definitive, this is where it's going to go, this is where it stays. So you have that pressure of having to get it right first time. When I'm making, for example, like a wreath or a flower display, I'll probably change it 7 times before I'm happy with it. And then every time I walk past it, I'll still give it a little tweak or move something around. So just have a bit of fun with it. Learn from your mistakes, although you can't really have any mistakes because nothing's final. So it's having that creativity and the confidence to just be able to go with it. And if it doesn't work and you don't like it, go back, revisit it, try again. Imagine making a card and then going, oh, actually, I don't like that layer under there. I'm going to move it all around.
Don't stick anything down.
Yeah.
Not till you're really happy.
And that's the joy of Forever Flowers, is that you don't have to. So
absolutely. I think my top tip as a part-time Forever Flowers person, that's how I feel I am, is that what I tend to do is if I've made up lots of flowers, I will go by colour.
Yeah.
So that I get so I don't have to have lots of the same flower, but I can mix up my
do a tonal mix.
Yeah. And a variety of sizes and textures. And it just adds interest. I mean, everyone works in different ways. Some people like everything to be the same and just have a very set way of doing things, but you'll see from what I make, it tends to be a little bit more ad hoc, shall we say.
That's the bonus of it, isn't it?
And I prefer to have lots of flowers and less foliage, but I know lots of people prefer lots of foliage and less flowers.
I love more foliage.
So there is no right and wrong answer.
No, it's your personal taste, isn't
absolutely.
It? Which hopefully we've got something to cater for all of that.
Absolutely. Don't be scared of stamping. The thing that happens most of all when we're at shows is people will come up and say, I can't do stamping. And then I just say to them, right then, 1 minute of your time.
This is what you did to me, wasn't
I'm
it?
going to sit down and I'm going to show you, because you just need to remember it's just a piece of card or paper and a bit of ink. And that is a tool that you've got and you can have as many goes as you like. Don't feel pressured by it. And the other thing is, get yourself a microfiber cloth.
I was going to say, I love your squishy cloth underneath because that makes it so much easier.
It does, because whatever surface you've got, because quite often if you're feeling like you can't stamp, it will be because you've got an uneven surface underneath, which means no matter what you do, you're never going to get good impression. The microfiber cloth will help alleviate that. and that it's just to do with the pressure you're putting down. But like I said, just practice. And if you're not sure, go to the Craft Buddy page under the videos where there's Facebook Lives and all of these things that both myself and Sarah have done with all those helpful hints and tips. Or you can send me a message and I will always help you out, because there's nothing to be scared of. I do, it was terrifying.
Yeah.
I did a show with Sharon.
Oh, you did?
I did, where we launched the first ever Forever Flowers poinsettias.
Yeah.
They sold out in the first show which Sharon did within less than half an hour. So I had hardly anything left to sell for my show, and I'd never done TV before.
Still got to talk for an hour.
and I worked with the lovely Martin.
Yeah.
I'd done my screen test with Dan, so I always feel very, I love those guys so much, they know that.
And that's so funny, because my first ever show on Create and Craft was also with Martin, and he still talks about it now. So that was nearly 13 years ago. I was doing some jewellery making and it sold out in 20 minutes, and they had to go to the next show early because everything had gone. And even now, I'm sure you've heard him say, whenever him and I have a show together, he always refers back to it, because I'm always still probably as nervous now as I was then.
It's terrifying, isn't it?
I can't remember what my first Craft Buddy show was. I think it was Crystal Art, just before lockdown, I think. Crystal Art, and then probably hundreds ever since then.
I would say, and that was that.
Yeah, they've all just kind of blurred into one, but I think it was Crystal Art was my first one.
Well, at the moment, it's not really a hobby. My other favourite pastime is holding my beautiful granddaughter Olive. I can't lie. But I love, so I love a freebie.
Nice.
I'm a forager. So I kind of have a map of where I live. I know where all the fruit trees are. I know, so there's little facts I know that, Ballfest, sorry. So, did you know that wild apple trees, every apple tastes different?
Really?
So, whenever you see apples growing wild, you have to pick an apple and taste it, and then you find out where the good apples are.
Oh.
And once you know where the good apple tree is, you can go and pick apples from that
So
tree.
that's marked on your map?
I don't think it's marked, it's in my brain.
Right. What do I do? I don't very often have much spare time. We're quite busy, aren't we?
This is the thing.
Between 2 dogs and a stepdaughter to drive around and work and lots of shows. But I kind of tried to turn my hand to things like that. So the house that we moved into 2 years ago has a huge big elderflower tree in the garden. So I made some elderflower cordial this year. I tend to do more crafty things and hobbies around Christmas, like making gifts. So making candles and doing things like various flavoured vodkas and drinks and things like that that you can do. Drink seems to cover quite heavily in our pastimes. But so the things that I can then make and kind of pass on and gift to people as well. Mine is just mostly countryside dog walks. Just escaping from all the devices and getting away and getting some nice fresh air and lots of nice walks in the countryside.
It does seem that there's a theme with both of our
Like to
hobbies there.
escape. Yeah.
Because it's literally 5 minutes walk from my house and I'm in fields.
Perfect.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
same.
Cool.
Yeah, so you'll always find us in a field somewhere.